وكيل نصير. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي لم يتخذ ولدا ولم يكن له شريك في الملك ولم يكن له ولي من الذل وكبره تكبيرا. الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على رسول النبي الأمي الذي أرسله بالحق بشيرا ونذيرا وداعيا إلى الله بإذنه سراجا منيرا سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين وغر الميامين المعصومين الذين يذهب الله عنهم الرجس والطهارة ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه المبين وهو أصدق القائلين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل لا أسألكم عليه أجرا إلا المودة في القربى. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Please recite aloud salawat. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the opportunity to have come back to join in that another where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran explicitly mentions the amount he has for Rasulullah. We realize that Allah Allah is so powerful, not a spite, shirk that is or that one can have towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But yet Allah says that I am not like you, I will never be like you. I do not have the emotions you have. I do not operate on a whim. La sanatan wala nawm. I share no characteristic or no sifa with you. But there is one action that Allah very directly stipulates in the Quran. It says, I will join you in this particular act. And that act is sending salawat on the Prophet where he says, Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. This is how dear Rasulullah is and his family is. And that is why I chose this ayah of Surah Al-Shura for us to be a reminder why we gather and why we come as a token of appreciation and a token of thanks to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Those that killed Imam Hussein also recited the kalama. Those who killed Imam Hussein were also praying and also fasting. Those who killed Imam Hussein among them were the Huffaz of the Quran as well. But Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi, we are not of them. We do not associate with them. We are independent. We are only the lovers of you and your holy family. May Allah have salawat upon you till the end of time and after if it exists. Brother Hassan did announce right now about the QR codes that are present, and I see them posted up as well. These programs are organized for all of us to make a little of Ahlul Bayt, that is true, but also for you to benefit. I do not have the privilege, and nor am I as blessed, where I have interaction each and every one of you personally. But if you take a few minutes out of your time, it's a short form, 3 minutes after the lecture, to scan the code and fill the form and give valuable input, because this may look like a monologue, but in fact, this also serves a purpose. This memo serves a purpose. And if you have queries or questions or ideas, suggestions, please bring it forth. The nature of the form is anonymous. You do not have to put your name on it, but do feedback with what you think when it comes to the talk or the organization of the program. Again, I reiterate, it is very valuable. Each and every one of you are valued, not to myself only, not to the people organizing this only, but to our guests of Az-Zahra Salaam Alaiha when you come to these majalis. So please, whatever valuable input you have, if you do not have access to a representative, there's a QR code, scan that, and do give back your feedback. Recite Salawat Muhammad wa Allahumma salli ala. When you read the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein, famously known as the Ziyarat al-Warith, and which is read almost every night after the program, in the main hall for sure. Every Thursday night you recite it, you pick up the ziyarah and it says, Assalamu alayka ya waritha Adam Safatillah, Assalamu alayka ya waritha Nuh Nabiyullah, Assalamu alayka ya waritha Ibrahim, Khalilillah, Assalamu alayka ya waritha Musa Kalimullah, Assalamu alayka ya waritha Musa, Isa Ruhillah, and then so on and so forth. This waratha, this inheritance, these characteristics that Imam Hussein inherits, we've said this before, it's not because Imam Hussein is holding on to tangible things that have come down to him in heirloom, that he has received them from his elders. Those truths exist. But why is Imam al Hussein the Warith of the Anbiya? Why is Imam al Hussein the inheritor of these people? It is because he has a station in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He has a position in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What I would wanted to do is highlight the tests and the tribulations, and we get to know the prophets of Allah, especially those selected ones, especially those mentioned in the Ziyarah of Abu Abdullah, the relevance of which you understand. We spoke about Bibi Maryam, Salamullahi alayhi, the mother of Hazrat Isa, and we mentioned the difficulty she had and how difficult it was in her time to uphold religion, but she did. And Allah made an example of her, a role model of her. And then you see the same tests or similar tests repeated in the life of Imam Hussein. When the Quran was revealed, it was done. The Prophet has said in a narration, Ya Ali, inni qataltu lit-tanzil wa anta ya Ali tuqatil lit-ta'wil. I have fought very hard so that I may dissipate or spread the wahi or the revelation that came to me. You, Ali, including your children, will fight to maintain the sanctity of it or to spread the understanding of the Quran that was. Ya Ali. So, in accordance to that, we look at the life of the Anbiya. We'll take lesson from the life of the Anbiya. We look at the life of Imam Hussein, and we'll see the similarities of the tests. And if the tests are the same and the tests are similar, then the reward and the station would be the same. Because were it not the case, it would go against the justice system of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nabi Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, for those who know him here in this part of the world, they know him as Messiah or Jesus Christ, who we know as Nabiullah Isa, the son of Maryam, salamullahi alayha. He was a very kind and a very gentle soul. His method of propagation, the way he spread the message, was peripatetic, which means he traveled a lot, he moved through the land, he met different people, he engaged in different denominations, and he entertained all sorts of people. Many people, many types of people were in audience with Abdullah Isa. But he had 12 select disciples. In Arabic, we would call them the Hawariyun. The Hawariyun were an interesting knot. That is not the subject of my speech. What I want to speak on today is love and the nature of love. And inshallah, we shall explore this and try and understand this to a point. Nabiullah Isa, on one of his journeys, when he passes by a town, he hears anytime you enter a town, they didn't have social media back then, but there was corners where people gathered and spoke. In the evening, before the sun would set down, people would come out of their houses on the corners. They sit and they speak, they communicate. And Nabi Isa, when he passes by, he hears these murmurs and the gossip. In one town, he finds something very interesting. They speak of a young man who is very sick, who is taken unwell, a good, young, healthy man becomes sick all of a sudden, and he takes to bed. He has no appetite, and he's no longer interested in day-to-day affairs. He takes no interest in life nor living. Nabi Isa inquires about this man, and they say he's fallen in love. He loves a girl. And now that is the reason why he's become sick. He's lost all appetite. He doesn't want to eat anymore. All he wants to do is marry this girl. Nabi Allah bring this man to me. This man is brought to Nabi Allah Isa. Nabi Allah Isa says, if you do love this girl, why do you not marry her? He says, the father of this girl does not approve. The father of this girl does not approve that we be united and we be one. He says, I do not have the social standing he has. I will not be able to keep his daughter the way he's raised her. So he does not approve. Nabiullah Isa asks, what does he want? He says, well, he's put a challenge. He says, if you do want my daughter's hand in marriage, you need to prove to me that you have sufficient amount of wealth, you have access to it. You bring it to me, you show it to me, and my heart will rest knowing that my daughter will not starve. This is the situation that the young man found himself in. Nabiullah Isa says, it's no problem. The story goes, Nabiullah Isa picks up a few pebbles and rocks, puts them in a bag, hands it over to this man, tells him, go and deliver this to the mother of the girl you want to. You see, we are speaking about the test of the prophets and the tribulations of the prophets and what the prophets had to go through. Because they went through difficult times and they proved themselves successful and worthy, Allah gave them the stations that Allah gave them. But the test is not only for the prophet, it's also for the people around the prophet. He proves himself through the test that he is fit to carry the weight of prophethood. Are you fit enough to carry the weight of the prophet? Will you be good companions? The test is for everyone. For him, will he be able to accomplish and deliver on what he has promised Allah? And you, will you be able to accomplish and deliver companionship? Do you merit this companionship? So this is a test for you as well. So this man is handed a bag of pebbles and rocks by Nabiullah Isa, and he's told to go get this bag or this satchel to the father of the girl who intend to marry. If I was this man, I would not know how to behave because I just got handed a bag of rocks and pebbles. And I am told by this Rasul to go to the father of this girl and hand him this bag. It's a gamble of sorts. The father of the girl takes the bag and he says, "What is this?" He says, "This is what you asked for." Knowing full well that I have seen Isa, Ruhullah, with my own eyes, pick up pebbles and rocks and put them in this bag. He says, "This is what you asked for." When the father of the girl opens the bag, he's amazed. Because when he puts his hand inside and he pulls out what he pulls out, there's all sorts of gems. There's emerald, there's diamonds, and there's rubies. And the father of the girl is astonished and surprised, and he's taken aback. He says, "Where did you get this from?" He says, "I have it now. You asked me to bring this back for something to prove that I have standing. I will make sure that your daughter not starve. Here's the bag. Here's the rubies and the emeralds and the rubies." The father says, "Fair enough. It seems like you do have a source of wealth. If that is the case, bring me another bag. Bring me another bag." The young man goes back to Nabi Isa. He says, "Well, paraphrasing this, just so it's understood, Nabi Isa probably asked him how it went. He says, yeah, well, he's asking for another bag. He's asking for another bag. He says, yes, he's asking for another bag. Nabi Isa says, it's no problem. Same thing. He picks up some pebbles, he picks up some rocks, puts them in a bag, hands it over, and says, take it. Take it and give it to this man. So this love-struck young man goes to his father-in-law potential and he hands him the bag. He said, here, another bag, what you asked for, as requested. The man opens it through to Nabi Isa's miracle. He looks at what was pebbles and rocks once upon a time is now rubies and emerald and diamonds, precious gemstones. The father says, where are you getting this from? He says, when I was desperate and I did not know what to do, I turned my attention towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah gave me a way. He opened the door for me. This is where it's from. I'll pause the story here. And let's start another story right now. Remember where this stopped. For those who've been to Mashhad, and if you've not been to Mashhad, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take you to Mashhad al-Muqaddas, where is buried our Imam al-Rada alayhi salatu wasalam. Now that Mashhad is expanded and big, it has many suhun, many sahan in Mashhad. There's many courtyards. Once upon a time, the shrine was not. There's a masjid very famous in this place. It's called Masjid Gohar Shad. In Mashhad, a masjid called Masjid Gohar Shad. It was supposed to be across the street from the Haram, but because of the expansion, it now is part of the Haram. When you go do visit this masjid, it's an interesting place. It also has a famous history behind this masjid, Gohar Shad. Gohar Shad was a daughter of the one who was in charge of Mashhad, the Wali of Mashhad, a princess, all right, and she sanctioned for this masjid to be built. She was very dedicated to this cause. She was a spiritual lady. She was a woman of God. She had nothing to do with this world, ad-dunya wa ma fiha, and she was dedicated in her service to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So she, having found some money, wanted to build a masjid, Masjid Abu Arshad. And of all the people she hires or contracts to work in the masjid, there's a young man working in the masjid in the construction site. He sees her day in and day out, and like the person in the first story, he also falls in love with this and he stops coming to work because his love is pure and he cannot work anymore. He cannot get her out of his mind. He cannot get her out of his thoughts. He cannot sleep. He cannot eat. All he thinks about is this particular God. They tell Gohar Shah that there's this one because she takes account of who showed up, who didn't show up. I have to pay them their wages, and she says this particular person is hired is not coming to work. What's wrong with him? She finds out that he's just wants her hand in hand. Gohar Shah says, "Okay, I will marry him if he spends 40 days in i'tikaf in this masjid we're building. 40 days and 40 nights he spends in this masjid, Masjid al-Gohar Shah that we're building, in i'tikaf. For those who've been in i'tikaf, Allah accept your i'tikaf. For those, inshallah, Allah provide the opportunity that you sit in i'tikaf in one of the masajid chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it is an interesting exercise because you are to disconnect from the world. Usually the i'tikaf lasts 3 nights and 3 days. But the i'tikaf, this one, she said this is a love i'tikaf. And he has to engage and busy himself with the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He has to read the Quran, he has to pray. So he says, okay, I'm up for the challenge. And he sits down. People would have thought that this man would run away after 2, 3 days. I told her I love her and she wants me to sit in the masjid for 40 days. He takes up the challenge. 10 days go by, 20 days go by, 30 days go by, and this man does not move from his place. He's sat in the masjid and he's praying to Allah and he's observing worship. When the 40th day comes close, Warshad says, you know what? I have to keep true to my word. Tell this man I'm ready to marry him. So his friends, his mates show up and they go up to him and says, Mubarak, congratulations. You know what? You're successful in the challenge. Warshad is ready to marry you now. It's the 40th day. He looks at them and he says, who's Warshad? He says, you spent 40 days here. What do you mean who's Gorshad? He says, who's Gorshad? He says, what's wrong with you? We'll pause this story here as well. Please recite the salawat al Muhammad wa al Muhammad. There's two types of love as spoken to by philosophers and urafa and mystics. They say there's a love which is ishq haqiqi, the love, the true form of love. And then there's a love which is ishq majazi. Ishq majazi is not true. It will take on the colors of the true, but the object of love will perish. The object of love will not last forever. It is a simulation of love. It is not the truest sense or the truest form of it. It is not the love of the Urafa, nor the awliya, nor the anbiya. It's a love which is fueled by emotion and sentiment, and it fizzles off. It's bubbly in nature. It comes and it goes. Sometimes it happens a few times. But the road to ishq haqiqi sometimes, the road to true love sometimes comes through this pathway where people fall in love and the people fall out of love only to realize that the object of affection was not worth the love I gave them. The object of affection did not merit the love I gave them, not because they're bad people, because the essence of love, so matter and material cannot hold it and handle it. Love, true love is divine. True love is divine. True love, the source of it, is divine and it's pure as Al-Haq himself. And the only object of love can only as pure and as divine as divinity itself. Those who love know. Those who really love know. Those who truly love know. If you love someone more than they merit, not because they're bad people, not because they're bad people, it's because that love is misdirected. What you're looking for, what you're looking for is a container to fill with all of your being, all of the love that you feel and you hold, and to pour it into this container. And a human being cannot do that. A human being does not have the capacity to contain love that is meant for the divine. When you do fall head over heels, because sometimes to make something you have to break it. And if you look at tradition and narrations, Allah is very, very, very close to the heart. Those of us who've gone through difficult times, those of us who have difficulty in our relationships, those of us who've suffered know this better than those who have not had this. Call Allah from a broken heart and you feel Him respond differently. An example of this would be Suratul Mujadala. Suratul Mujadala in the Quran is a very interesting surah because it starts from the micro and it ends at the macro very quickly. It starts from the tangible, which is seen and felt, and it ends at the intangible, which is the abstract. Go back and just look up the surah when you can. Suratul Mujadala starts with the event. A woman comes up to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, and she complains to Rasulullah and she says, my husband has kicked me out of the house and I have young kids and I have no place to go. This was before talaq was enforced, before divorce was in place. The Arabs, the pagan Arabs, the Jahil Arabs would practice this thing called az-zihar. Az-zihar means to kick them out without any help or nafaqah or any support, and these women are then destitute and helpless. So this man practiced zihar, and the wordings of it is zihar ummi, and he kicks her out. This woman with young children shows up to Rasulullah and he speaks to Rasulullah. She speaks to Rasulullah and tells him exactly what transpired. Allah reveals wahi on the Prophet, and Allah says, tell her, Allah, I listen to her plea when she calls. This surah has 22 verses. This surah is the only surah in the Quran, Surah Mujadala, where Allah mentions His name in every single ayah. The surah in the Quran where Allah mentions His name in every single ayah, in every single verse, the only surah in the Quran. You know why? That this woman knows at every instance, in every time, I am present, just to tell her and reassure her of His presence. If you have been wrong, you are not alone. I am listening. In the first ayah, He mentioned Himself. In the second ayah, He mentioned Himself. And He's reassuring her, Allah is here. And the word He used, Innahu Sameen, I am listening. Innahu Alim, I know. Innahu Basir, I see. Muhammad, keep telling this woman, if she's wrong, she's not alone. I am here. I bear witness. I testify. I know what is true with her. The first segment is this, where a woman comes and complains, and then Allah talks about gossip. Surah Mujadala. So there's four scenes in this surah. People who speak behind the back. And this happens in the relationships. The unfortunate stories we get to hear. A woman finds herself in a bad relationship, and she's an easy target. It's very seldom people blame men. It's usually the girl's fault. And people talk and they gossip and they speak. Irrespective of how the relationship was, not privy to what happened in their privacy, but apparently a woman in a problematic relationship suddenly becomes gossip of it. With what right? With what right? And Allah addresses this. Allah addresses this in the following ayat of Surah Mujadala. It says, no, two people when they speak, the third of them is shaitan. Al-najwa min shaitan. Do not gossip. Do not talk to others. Do not engage in affairs you're not privy to. If it is not your business, it is none of your business. Remove yourself from the situation. This micro event, this event between a husband and a wife, where the wife comes and complains to Rasulullah. Allah says, I bear witness, ever she's not alone. I'm listening. It grows into a community issue where Allah talks about najwa and the community discussing this issue. And then Allah talks about the adab al-majlis. It says, don't talk to them. If you want, engage them in conversation. Do not other them. Do not make them the outsiders. Engage with them in conversation and see if you come to a resolution. And then if you do not listen, the surah ends with Allah saying, Hizbullah and Hizbul Shaitan. It starts with small talk. It starts with small talk. People discussing other people's affairs, issues, something non-relevant to them. Where does it end? It ends with Hizbullah and Hizbul Shaitan. Allah says, my group is the victorious. And those people who gossip and who talk and who like to chit-chat, if they do not fix their act, they end up with what? Shaitan. The Hizbullah and the Hizbul Shaitan. Brothers and sisters, please understand. Please understand. And because I hear many cases and many stories that come to us, the secret told to you by a friend or a mate is to be held in secret. If somebody confides in you, not for their sake and not for the sake of yourself, but because Allah has said, the respect or the reputation of a mu'min is more than the respect and the reputation of the Kaaba. If one of us, because of our tongue and our slander, and because we cannot control our tongue, talks of a third person and destroys the reputation in the process, Allah will not punish you for the crime of disgracing them. Allah will punish you for desecrating the Kaaba. Allah will punish you for desecrating the Kaaba. If you're up for it, then Bismillah. But these issues are very sensitive when it comes to intrapersonal relationships. If you are told something, hold it sacred, hold your tongue. There's a hadith from Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. The Imam says every morning when the man wakes up or a woman wakes up, when a person wakes up, every morning, the tongue communicates the rest of the body in lisan al-hal, in the metaphysical reality, in the malakut reality. The tongue, your tongue, it addresses each of your body part, talks to the hand, talks to the legs. How are you? Kaifa asbahtum? Kaifa halukum? How are you today? How's your morning been? And each and every body part responds to the tongue. We are okay if you let us be okay. We are at your mercy. If you behave yourself, we are safe. Anything that befalls us, it is your fault. The body responds to the tongue and says, if you let us be okay, we are fine. But it is your fault. Please be mindful when you find out something about someone. It is not for you to share. This is not your responsibility. Unless someone's life is in danger, that's something else. Call the authorities then. But to sit down and talk about someone, it is not becoming of the lovers of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam. It is not becoming of the lovers of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam. When somebody loves someone and truly loves someone to a point, like we said, the maqam of junoon, where he loses oneself, and the object of affection is the only one that they can see, and they prioritize, and they lose themselves, will they realize, and this is a natural progression. When you are in love, you won't know this. When the love is not reciprocated, you will realize the problem is not with the one you love, the beloved. It's because the love is so intense, it doesn't belong there. There's a true type of love that only belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can hold that love. It is misdirected. It needs to be returned to Allah. So these two lovers, one in Nabi Isa's time and one 160 years ago in Mashhad in Gohar Shah's time, they arrived at a realization, at a reality. When Nabi Isa wanted to send this man the third time, it says, if your father-in-law potential wants more gems and stones, you can take this bag. Before Nabi Isa could give him this bag, the man left. He left and he went to the father of the girl. And he says, I've arrived at a decision that I do not want to marry your daughter. I have decided I no longer am interested in your daughter. I don't want to marry her. He says, what happened? What changed your mind? He says, I have found my beloved in Isa. Because the nature of love is pure. And what love seeks out is purity. What love wants is to flourish. And that form of true love cannot exist on this plane, this dimension we live in this earth that we live in, where friction exists and matter exists. To try and find that love within a non-infallible will make the relationship toxic. Because you aspire for something which you cannot communicate. When you cannot communicate, you have expectations. When you have expectations that are not met, then there is resentment. So everything in i'tidal, everything in its place. Respect each other. Love because you like and enjoy each other's company. Allah says we have created spouses so they may find peace with each other. But those things that talk about love, were to exist, most of our poets would be sane and not be called insane. Would be Persian or Arabic poets or Urdu poets. Most of the shu'ara, he was like, pagal hai bechara. He's lost his mind. Most of the poets, they've lost the plot. The reason they've lost the plot is because their love, which is pure in essence and form, is just misdirected. If you pick up poems and literature, most of the beloved is either unfaithful, they call them. First, they will sing praise of the beloved, the beauty of the beloved, the honesty, and all of those things. They sing about them, and then there comes a point at the end of their lives when they haven't found the beloved, they resent them. And it's not the fault of the beloved. It's not the fault of the person they're in love with. It's because the nature of this love that you carry does not deserve the object that you love. The problem is not in the love, the problem is in the misdirection of the love. And when the love is truly directed where it belongs, like in the story of Gohar Shah, on the 40th day, after he spent that time with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because what love is looking for is perfection and reciprocation. Love is looking for a return of the gesture. If I love someone, I want to be loved equally. If I love someone, there's respect and all those things. There's growth in love. And when they met Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they realized, I cannot love anybody else like I can love Allah. Why? Because only Allah can respond to my love the way Allah chooses to respond to my love. In His love, I will grow. In His love. You know why? Because the lover is selfless in his love. A lover is selfless in his love. and he wants the beloved to be as selfless like himself. And that can never always be the case. You know who can love you selflessly? The one who does not have a self per se. He will love you. It's painful. Those who've experienced Majazi love, those who've experienced the love and the heartbreak that follows love, it's not easy. It's very painful. It hurts a lot. Those who've fallen in love and then have their hearts broken, or who've fallen in love and they live through the love and then fallen out of love, understand this. And they start questioning themselves and they start doubting themselves. Did I really love this person? Or was my love flawed? Is there a problem with me? Am I not able to love? Was I loving a lot? Was I loving too much? This self doubt starts damaging people. So before this self doubt takes hold of your heart and take roots in your soul, know that the love that you want from them is only love that Allah can give you and nobody else. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can love you the way you're meant to be loved because He is Allah. Your mother can love you to an extent, your father can love you to an extent because they're bound by human nature, they're bound by human physical limitations. I can love my parents all I want, but the physics binds me, the economics binds me, the expression of words binds me. I'm bound in the physical, I'm stuck in the material. But if you want to really experience love, you have to let love go home where it belongs. The love does not belong to anyone walking this earth unless he's sent to this earth by Allah, having announced, وَلَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. If your hearts desire a home and a place and an object of desire and love, know that nobody deserves love and affection like Muhammad and Al Muhammad deserve it. That is why this ayah speaks about it. وَقُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى. It speaks to the psyche of man. I know the mu'min is a lover, and a mu'min loves selflessly, and a mu'min is passionate in his love, and a mu'min will die for his love. And you want to direct your love, Rasulullah is giving you the keys. Do not waste your time because you will walk and you will fall and you will blame yourself and you will resent the other because this exists within you like hunger exists within us. A child cries because he's hungry and because he's not able to express his hunger, so he cries. A lover cries because he wants to love but he does not know how to express his love. So you have Sahifat al-Sajjadiyah and you have Imam Sajjad saying, or those people who love, who have that heart, and who had that, those who were designed that way, who want that intimacy with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, pick up the Sahifat al-Sajjadiyah, read the du'as mentioned in the Sahifat al-Sajjadiyah, and have an intimate conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of the hadith I was reciting the other day, there's four things from the sifat of the mu'min. The last one is al-munajat ma'allah. You know what a munajat ma'allah means? Munajat ma'allah is not picking up a book and reading munajat of Amir al-Mu'mineen. It's not picking up a book and reading dua or ziyarah. Munajat ma'allah means sit on your musalla, find seclusion, a place where you are not disturbed, no distractions, put your phones away, put everything away. Sit down and speak to Allah as if you speak to a friend. Actionable point, when you find yourself troubled, you know how your therapist might tell you, journal your thoughts? You journal your thoughts, you've done a good deed. Try this as well. What the hadith says. Sit down and speak to Allah and speak to Him as if He's a presence, present in front of you, presently overlooking you and watching over you. Because Allah Himself has said, Ana jalisu man dhakarini. I sit with the one who remembers me. Not that I respond to who calls on me, that is there. Ana jalisu man dhakarani. You remember me, I sit with you, I'm with you, I'm present with you. I'm here with you. Have that conversation with Allah. Tell Allah how your day went. On your janamaz, on your musalla, when you finish your namaz, when you've done your salat, and you raise your du'as, and the du'as you memorized as a child, you read the du'as, all those things. You recite the tasbih and the ziyarat and everything, sit down for a minute or 2 minutes and have a conversation with Allah. When you do it with your heart, initially, it will seem foreign to you because it's something you've not done. You haven't practiced it. It's something new. Like anything new, like learning how to ride a bike, it'll be difficult. There's no connection. After a few days, it may seem like a monologue, but if you keep talking to Allah, that monologue will change into a dialogue. And when He speaks to your heart, you will know it is Him speaking and none other than Him speaking. This is not my words, these are the words of the prophets. They tell you to speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salatul Layl and Salatul Tahajjud, those who recite Salatul Tahajjud with the essence of Salat Tahajjud understand this intimacy. They understand this khalwa with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you speak to Allah, the monologue will become a dialogue. And you will know exactly that what I hear and what I feel in my heart is not me, it's not coming from me. Because ittaqullaha yu'allimkumullah. Fear Allah, be intimate with Allah, be conscious with Allah, conscious of Allah. Allah will teach you. Because the thoughts that then occur in your heart and in your mind, in your soul, you will be able to distinguish and realize these are not my ideas, these are not my thoughts. I do not have the capacity to think at this level. The love I feel in my heart is not this worldly love. The connection I feel with Allah, I have never felt before. Start with telling Him your day, engage in a monologue, and wait for the dialogue. ومن الله التوفيق. Please recite the salawat of Muhammad wa alihi. And all the lovers felt this. Those who claim to love, when they failed in their love, they turned around. Look at all the lovers, pick up the lovers in history who really and truly loved. All of them focused and turned around and focused at love because they understood the nature and the divine nature of love. And they loved Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala afterwards. For this is what Imam Hussein says, تَرَكْتُ الْخَلْقَ تُرًّا فِي هَوَاكَ. I have left all this world for you, turran, without looking back, lihawak, for your face, Ya Allah. Taraktu khalqa turran lihawak, wa aitamtu al-ayala likay arak. My children have become orphans because I yearn to see you and your face, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And similar were the companions of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam. They did not come to Hussein for the sake of something. They're lovers, they saw love, they recognized love, and they came to love for the sake of love, to get to love. In Hussein, they saw the manifestation of love. They saw Hussein to be the tajalli of La ilaha illallah. They saw the sifat of Jamal and Jalal of Allah in Hussein ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib. And they came to him. Like a moth would be attracted to a flame, they came to Hussein. Did Hussein not tell them on Shab Ashur, on the night of Ashura? He says, let me put out the flames, and you who want to leave, leave. They do not want you, they want Hussein. They're not after your blood, they're after the blood of Hussein. If you were to leave, they will leave you. and you can go and save your life. Let me put out the flames, and if you're embarrassed to leave, take one of my family members. Take Ali Akbar by the hand and leave. Take Qasim by the hand and leave. Hussein has removed his bay'ah from each and every one of you. You have permission from Hussein to leave the camp, to leave the tent, to leave the battlefield. Go home. Go to your family. Take your families with you. When they heard this, they questioned. It says, "Oh, Aba Abdullah, do you doubt our dedication? Do you doubt our intention? Ya Sayyidi Mawlai, is there something we've done to offend you? Do you not want with us on this last night you are on this earth? If we're bad, we will leave. But is there something we've done to offend you? Is our love no pure for you?" What did they want? They're lovers from all quarters of the world, from different parts of the world. They saw Hussein and they identified love. They said, if there is existing a true object of our love in this world, it is this old man, this man who walks on this earth, who's come to this land of Karbala with his daughters and his women folk and his friends and his family. This son of Rasulullah, if there is one object of love that deserves love indefinitely, is this man. And of those lovers, and of those lovers is a slave once upon a time by the name of John. John was a slave who came into service of Abu Abdullah alayhi salatu salam, and he served the Ahlul Bayt. The Ahlul Bayt would not keep their slaves how the rest of the Arabs would keep their slaves. They would treat their slaves with respect. We have accounts of Fidda salamullahi alayha, who came into the house of Imam Ali as a slave. But one day, somebody used to knock on the door and they see Fidda answer the door and they ask Fidda, "Where is Az-Zahra?" She says, "Az-Zahra is working." He says, "Az-Zahra is working. You're here though. You're the slave. You're supposed to be subservient to your master. Why is Az-Zahra working?" He says, Az-Zahra says, "Fidda, you work one day and I'll work one day. So you can rest on one day and I'll rest on one day." This is the Ahlul Bayt. This is the Ahlul Bayt. So John was similar. The Ahlul Bayt took him in, they educated him, and they freed him. And then he did not want to leave. He chose to stay because they loved the Ahlul Bayt. A man who has lost his house, lost his reputation, lost any social status, sits at the feet of Hussein. He says, "You have given me everything and more. How can I leave you when tomorrow they want you and they want to kill you tomorrow? It is not befitting." They say in the Maqatil that John came to Imam Hussein, he approached him a few times. And every time he would come to Imam Hussein, he said, "Sayyidi wa Mawlai, do I have your permission to go and sacrifice my life for your sake?" Imam Hussein would turn away. He says, "No, John, you do not have permission." Historians have written many things. Tomorrow, let not somebody to come out and say, "Oh, Hussein bought slaves." Nobody fought for Hussein. This was slaves. Hussein forced them to fight. This may be a reason. Now, you know when you want something so bad, you really want something, but the one who's supposed to allow it does not allow it. So it gets to a point where you say something, you do not mean it, but you say it because there's an element. This is a love language where you say something to hurt them, not for the intention of hurting them, but to tell them how much you want something. So you hurt them so that attention be, it's a language of love. So John comes up to Imam Hussein. He says, "I understand now. Do you not let me go to the battlefield because I'm black? Is it because I'm black you do not allow me to go and fight from your side?" You know how painful this is for Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam to hear? But John is forced to say this. John is forced to say in the language of love. And Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam understands that this language of love. He says, John, you know me not to be such. He says, do you not let me go fight because my body smells a certain way? Because when I sweat, the smell is not familiar to you Arabs. Imam Hussein says, John, this is not the case. My words, wallahi, this is not the case. He says, do you not send me to the battlefield? Because if I was to cut up and bleed, you do not want my blood to mix with the blood of your family and your loved ones. Imam Hussein says, go, John. If this is what you want, John, go. Go and fight. Go fight. May Allah accept from you. And then John leaves. Understand the context. You have these racist Arabs on the other side, and you have a black slave. Allow me to say it. A slave. This is how they see it. A slave man running towards the battlefield with a spear in hand. And they crush him, and they beat him, and they cut him till a time when he falls to the earth. Do you know what the narrator says when John falls to the earth? They said Hussein came to John's side how a hawk would come towards his prey. He ran towards John like a hawk would fly towards its prey. This is John. Look at it from an objective lens, or a subjective lens of a racist Arab. A black slave has fallen to the ground, but he's a lover of Hussein. And as much as John loves Hussein, Hussein loves John as well. Hussein runs to John's side. He picks up John's head. He places it on his lap, and he caresses his forehead, and he cleans the blood off his eyes. Hussein kisses John's forehead, and he puts his cheek on John's cheek, and he cries when you hug and you hold someone beloved to you who is to depart this world. And Hussein holds John, and he hugs him and he cries. And John looks up at his master and he says, Ya Aba Abdullah, hal wafait? Oh Aba Abdullah, have I done my part? Have I played my part? Do you agree with me? Do you accept me? Do you accept my sacrifice? And Imam Hussein holds John and he says, Naam, Naam, wafait. Allah is witness. Rasulullah is witness. My mother Zahra is witness. John, you have been faithful and you've done the best. Where will you bring a master like Hussein ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib? Where do you find a master like Hussein ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib? Once a slave, now when he is to live this world, he has the best of cushions to rest his head and he's gone to his master. I will say, oh John, you sacrificed yourself. And this is how Hussein rested your head on his lap. But just a few hours from now, Hussein's head will be on the ground, and there is no lap to hold Hussein's head. There is no one to hold Hussein's left head. What you will see tomorrow, John, is this head on the head of a spear, on the spearhead, walking from Karbala to Kufa, from Kufa to Sham. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون رضا بقضائه وتسليما لأمره ماتم يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين.